I have recently met a man who has struggled with life circumstances and is not where he could be in life. But he is smart and hardworking, and I know he can change things around in a few years. I am much more settled with a good job, house, car, and so on. I would love to date him, but he is very self-conscious about not being where he should be. Would most men pass on a good potential relationship for this sort of reason? Story 1. I'd be concerned just the way you phrased it. He's smart and hardworking, and I know he can change things around in a few years. It seems like you are saying that where he is now isn't something you'd be okay with long term. So what happens if he doesn't make more or do better? Story 2. Generally, the issue with men not dating up is that she won't date down. If that's not a problem for you, ask him out. He might say yes or he might not. There's only one way to find out. That said, do not ask him out based on his potential. If his life or business doesn't pan out in spite of his best efforts, you may find yourself regretting the decision down the road, or he might turn it into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Date him because you like who he is and where he is now, not who he might become. If you've already dated for a bit and he's left because of his concerns about where he should be, let him go. He's got issues to deal with and you can't do that for him. Story 3. I would date a woman who interests me and with whom I can have a meaningful connection. How much they choose to earn and what education they have is fairly irrelevant to me. Story 4. I feel like that is more of a person-to-person scenario. I have no problem with a more successful wife, and a good friend of mine has that, where his wife easily triples his salary. No problems there. Yes, sounds like a great deal. A different question is if the wife is the breadwinner, does it mean she makes the household decisions? If that's the case, I can see how many men would be turned away by the thought of being dependent and maybe not contributing their share, which in reality can be done in many more ways than just dollars in the bank. You'd hope you date somebody for their personality. Life circumstances change a lot easier and faster than people's personalities. As a matter of fact, I think most people don't change much, while life can have a big impact on you in a matter of months, if not days. I'd be cautiously optimistic. There might be real reasons why you think he's not where he ought to be. Story 5. Nope. Been there and was financially and emotionally abused. Once she started out earning me, she would hold it over my head. Never want to be in that place again. Story 6. My wife made more money than me when we met and would still be if I hadn't gotten a promotion. She has a degree and I don't. My job isn't even what I went to college for. If you meet a woman who is better off than you and will still date you, do what you can to keep her. Cook, clean, wear a cute butler or maid outfit, and so on. You don't meet women like that often. Story 7. So I only make $50,000 a year, which puts me in poverty nowadays. Most women make more than that pretty easily. I have no idea why a woman would want to date down when she has plenty of options. I personally love my job and don't want to climb ladders to make more money to impress people. But I also realize that being such a loser will keep me off the dating table for most people. So I've come to accept the fact that I'm not worthy of a date with women because of my income. If a woman really wants to make it clear that my wage doesn't bother her, I would give it a shot. But because of my poverty, I won't be seeking out relationships anymore. So she'll have to make it apparent to me she wants to downscale her life with a loser. Story 8. I had this kind of relationship. It worked well until it didn't. She had a lot of her own problems. Part of my problem was that because she was the breadwinner between the two of us, I never felt like I was entirely safe in the relationship. Not saying it can't work out, just that it may be a little hard for him to voice concerns because of what might happen if you break up, and you should be on the lookout for that. Story 9. The real issue is that educated women initiate divorce 80% of the time. Some women can be okay supporting their guy until he gets established, but most have very little patience for this. If I made $150,000 per year, I would have no issue dating whoever. If I only made $30,000 per year, I probably would pass on a gal making $200,000. She would not know how to deal with it. Story 10. I'm dealing with this myself right now and almost backed out because I thought for sure she would issue me a hard pass due to having no degree, a mountain of debt, and living out of an apartment while she owns a house. I do have a stable career and a car, but a series of toxic relationships have left my material world in shambles. But no, She told me to knock it off and wants to keep seeing me. We've been dating for almost a month now. She's coming over for dinner tomorrow night. I won't deny that her stability and my lack thereof is a massive insecurity for me. But I'm just going to roll with it and see where it goes, swallow my pride, and allow myself to shine in the areas I'm strong. Story 11. If you can accept him for who he is today, then sure. But if you are looking to improve him, then no. He is who he is, and if he cannot, for whatever reason, improve his situation in life, are you going to be okay with that? It is a rare occasion where a woman can respect a man who is lesser than her in the things you have listed, and without respect, love is impossible. Story 12. If you find someone you connect with and can have a laugh with, that's all that matters. Money or education shouldn't mean a thing. How you choose to build your future together should be the main goal. Story 13. Would most men pass on a good potential relationship for this sort of reason? A relationship would be perfectly fine. I would have my doubts about getting married, though. Human nature is human nature. And women typically like to see their man be better than them, that is, make more money. I think you would lose respect long-term for a man that makes less. Not all women, of course, but a lot of them. So marrying you would be a higher risk of divorce down the line. Story 14. The answer is yes. However, it would be a deep concern of mine if she considered anything long-term. The fact is, numbers don't lie, and women who earn more still typically want a man who earns more than they do. Biologically, women want a partner with resources, and if a woman makes more than a man does, the need for said partner is far less. Also, it varies, but there's enough evidence that many women view a man's income as theirs or the relationship's combined income, but that their income is theirs alone. In short, women don't share their money the same way a man does. Obviously, this varies and can be completely different for any particular relationship, but over time it's becoming more prevalent. I know an old coworker of mine is married to a woman with a higher income. As far as I'm aware, they've made it work, but as always, career paths and income vary. Story 15. I would date her absolutely, but I would also be more aware of certain personality traits that woman is more likely to possess, such as higher rates of infidelity if the woman makes more, a controlling nature, being more argumentative, and a lack of mutual respect. Story 16. It isn't about passing on you, it's about being passed over when a better option comes along. Oodles of data on this very topic show there is a lack of respect from the woman's side if her man is of lesser status. The man picks up on it, it feeds his insecurities, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not in all cases, but it is significant. Story 17. Men do not value job prospects or prestige. They value loyalty. If I were in this guy's position, I would just be worried if you would leave me in the next few years if I do not live up to your expectations. That can lead to contempt that poisons the relationship. I have never, ever heard of a guy who passed on a relationship because he did not make enough. I have heard of guys passing because they are convinced not making enough would cause a woman to leave him, which is an important difference in my opinion. Story 18. I have half a year of college. I haven't worked in 20 years. We have 3 kids. My wife is extremely intelligent. She was in Mensa for a while. She is a senior director at a startup out of New York City. She is smarter and makes a ton of money. So yes, I would. Although when I met her, she was just finishing college and I had no clue what she would become. Story 19. Maybe I'm an atypical organic male who happens to be Generation X. I've never viewed familial roles like that. Granted, I worked a lot when I was younger to get to where I am today, but my personal ambition drove me, not some pseudo-sense of purpose. I've also left it up to my partners as to what their ambitions are and have actively supported them as they do the same. Love is love and also happens to be blind in my book. I don't care if my partner is successful or not, as long as the other boxes are checked. For example, can we hold intelligent conversations, enjoy each other's company, bond emotionally and physically, and actually be partners in all things? Story 20. I'm going to go against the grain here and say no, I wouldn't date a woman who is much better off than me. I would never be able to feel comfortable with myself if I had to have another person support me, with them as the breadwinner. Call me old-fashioned, but as a man, if I had to have a woman support me like that, I would wake up every day feeling pathetic. Story 21. I wouldn't have a problem with it. I hear a lot of horror stories. That wouldn't deter me, but it would make me more alert, and if it starts looking like a horror flick, I'm out of there. Story 22. To me, it sounds like you are trying to date the future version of him. If you are more interested in who he would be in the future than who he is now, then don't. He might never get to that point, just like he might be even better than that. Life tends not to be what we want it to be. Story 23. Miss, I'm that guy. I'm currently married to my third wife. My second, and I have 3 kids, and she cleaned me out. I left with practically nothing. I had to pay so much in child support. I was living with my parents. I couldn't afford to live on my own. Probably still can't, to be honest. I honestly didn't expect to find my forever then. I was just reaching out for scraps of affection on dating apps because I felt so alone. The closest I've ever been to taking a Kurt Cobain painting class was at that time in my life. I wasn't just sitting on my ass crying, woe is me. I was working a driving job that had me out of town 4 days a week. But I barely made anything after car maintenance and child support. I found a pair of part-time jobs at that point, local, and between them made equivalent to what the other job made, so I quit and did them instead. Wasn't making more, but I was home nightly. Then I started trying to get into college. I was 32, living with my parents, and now a college student with 2 part-time jobs. So I was racking up debt while having pennies left at the end of the day after child support. If I wasn't eating my parents' food, I wasn't eating. That is what my wife met and said, "Oh hell yes, sign me up." She's a few years younger than me, did the smart thing, and went to college right out of high school. She's a teacher with dual master's degrees. She's still to this day, married almost 8 years now, together almost 9, makes more than me with my information technology degree. Child support still takes its toll, and I know I couldn't live on my own still, or at least not in a neighborhood I felt safe having my kids in, which means I owe my wife for my relationship with my kids, whom she loves like they're her own. She's an amazing woman, stepmother, lover. She's honestly perfection as far as I'm concerned. Everything I never had. So let's talk about your situation. I can tell you this much from your description. Your man hates himself. I know because I hate myself still to this day. He's clawing and scraping to get out of the hole he feels responsible for being in, whether he is or not. You didn't mention age, but if you're 30 or older, he's tired. Especially if he's been in this hole for an extended period of time. Loving a man like that is not going to be easy. He won't believe it. He won't accept it. You will tell him how you feel about him, and he won't believe you. If his situation is due to being used in previous relationships like mine, he will find it hard to trust you. But if he's like me in those aspects, he's also dying inside every single day, because he is alone. It's just him and his most hated enemy, himself. My wife pulled me out of the gutter. I still need reassurances from her all the time, because I still find it hard to believe this is my life now. Things are better now than when we met, but I still feel inadequate. I still hate myself, and that strong woman still loves me anyway. I don't know what I'd do without her. So the question isn't if he would date you. It's do you have the will, the strength of resolve and patience to love a man that can't love himself? That won't believe you when you tell him you love him? I'll tell you this much. If you answer yes, you'll never find a man more loyal. Once he accepts you, you're his queen, his goddess, because you'll be his lifeline. You'll save his life in every sense that matters. He will worship you. Just make sure you never falter once he does that. If you waver from loving and supporting him, he'll lose his last chance at humanity. For you, it's just another breakup. For him, his world is destroyed again. Good luck, miss. You're picking the road less traveled. But it's worth it in my opinion. Story 24. It takes more than that to threaten my masculinity and ego, so as long as it doesn't seem like it would cause problems in our relationship, then sure. It depends heavily on how it intersects with her personality, though. Story 25. I was that guy and was worried about dating that woman. I decided to be my best self and date her. We have been married for the last decade and have a couple of amazing kids. Story 26. No, not interested in dating someone who would eventually look down on me for not being on the same level. use my lower status against me as something to throw in my face, or be with a woman who would feel as if she's above me. Story 27. She would put her career first, not the relationship or family. Bad gamble. Plus, women don't date down until they run out of options. You don't want to date a woman who's out of options. Story 28. That reminds me of myself when I was in college, almost failing out because of drinking too much. At the time, I had met a girl whom I liked and who liked me, but she was in a much better place in her life than I was. She worked full-time in the real estate industry, had 2 cars, and her own place. I was barely staying in school and worked part-time. I spent almost every night out at a bar and was probably an alcoholic. She always dressed nicely and would mention the male realtors who would hit on her at work. I felt that she was just slumming by dating me and that she'd drop me for someone who had his act together. It made for a bad relationship. I didn't want to care so that when she dropped me, I wouldn't be hurt. I ended up ghosting her first before she had the chance to drop me. I was just too insecure about us being in different places in our lives to give it a real chance.